Welcome to This Week from Blue Mountain Broadcasting. I'm Lynelle Eillis, your host, and very glad that you've tuned in today because we are going to be talking with Holley Bryant, who's head of schools for the brand new Walla Valley Adventist schools. That's a new system, and you're going to want to hear all about the details of how this decision was made, why it was made, what some of the benefits are, and all those good things about a brand new development here in our community. And then I've got some exciting things to share with you during our station news segment too at the end of the program. First though, let's spend a few minutes with our devotional. The other day, one of my work colleagues shared a beautiful quote with me, and I want to share it with you right now. Here it is. The real things haven't changed. It is still best to be honest and truthful, to make the most of what we have, to be happy with simple pleasures, and have courage when things go wrong. Do you know who wrote those lovely words? Try to guess. Well, I was surprised, or maybe not so surprised, to learn that they were penned by Laura Ingalls Wilder, one of my favorite authors. So let's take a few moments to break down what she's saying here in this quote. The first part of the quote is this: the real things haven't changed. Now, why is that? Why is it that the real things haven't changed? Well, I think perhaps it's because God hasn't changed. He doesn't change. His kingdom of love and his laws that represent his character remain the same. Remember Malachi 3:6? I, the Lord, do not change. So God remains the same. And that means that the things that are really important also stay the same, no matter how much time goes by or how society and culture morph and adapt and change. The real things haven't changed. Now, the second part of this quote. It is still best to be honest and truthful. Yep, it is. It just is. When you are honest and truthful, when you're an honest and truthful person, others around you can trust you. They can depend on you. And you can also be content with yourself because you know that you have integrity. The world is desperately in need of people who live honestly. And here are a couple of verses that emphasize the beauty of honesty, integrity, and truthfulness. The first one is from Proverbs 24:26. An honest answer is like a kiss on the lips. And the other from 1 John 3:18. Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. Note how being honest and truthful is closely connected with love in these two verses. When you're really loving others, you are honest, truthful, and filled with integrity. Now let's look at the third part of this quote. To make the most of what we have. That's about using the resources and gifts God has given us to the best of our ability. And by the way, he also gives us those abilities. God really wants us to use an old-fashioned word, be good stewards. To make as much out of what we have as is possible, to take good care of our planet and all that God has personally entrusted to us. Let's look at 1 Peter 4:10. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. So indeed, we are to make the most of what we have. And now the fourth part of this quote. Be happy with simple pleasures. That's a great one. It means to be content. One of the hardest things for us to do, but it's so rewarding. Finding contentment is a fantastic thing. Remember 1 Timothy 6:6? But godliness with contentment is great gain. It sure is. And I'm praying for contentment. How about you? And then the fifth part of the quote, and have courage when things go wrong. Notice she says when things go wrong, not if they go wrong. Things are always going to go wrong along the way in this life. But it is important to remember that all things work together for good in the end. Romans 8:28 reminds us of that, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. God is on our side and by our side through all of life's challenges, so we can take courage and not be afraid. So let's read through that whole quote together one more time. The real things haven't changed. It is still best to be honest and truthful, to make the most of what we have, to be happy with simple pleasures, and have courage when things go wrong. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Joining me now is Holley Bryant, who's head of schools for Walla Valley Adventist Schools. Did I get that right?
That's right. That's right. Good job.
And it's a brand new organization.
It is.
What is it?
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Well, so even before my time, this is my 7th year at Rogers. Before I even came to Rogers, before Mr. Borges, the principal at Walla, before he came, there was talk in the Valley about Rogers and Walla. Rogers, our K-8 elementary school, Walla, our 9-12 academy. Why we don't work together more cohesively. We share a parking lot, for goodness sake, but sometimes that's all we shared.
Yes.
And so the customer service experience for parents and students maybe wasn't always as good as it could have been, because it's always so much stronger when you work together. And so that idea had been tossed around for a number of years, but nobody really kind of took it seriously. And then just this last year, in May, our separate boards, the separate Walla board and the separate Rogers board, voted to give it a try for a year, to take an interim year just to see how it would work. And they asked me to be head of schools and sort of supervise that process of what would it look like for us to have one K-12 system. And so then they also scheduled a collaboration task force, which was some members from the Rogers board and some members from the Walla board, to meet together to look at a number of issues that we knew would come up as we considered this collaboration.
Sure.
We knew there'd be questions about church subsidy. We have churches who support both Rogers and Walla. We have churches who support only Rogers. We have churches who support Milton State Line Adventist School and Walla. So
Yes.
what does that look like for the money piece for church subsidy? We had questions about school budget, because a K-12 school is sponsored differently than a K-8 school, which is sponsored differently than a 9-12 school with the conference subsidy. So we wanted to look
yes.
at those things. We knew we needed to talk about the name. We knew that branding and naming was an important piece of this. We wanted to talk about board governance and what that would look like. And so we had about a group of, 10 or 12 individuals representing both schools, both boards, parents, alumni, conference people, university people, all together to kind of look at this and try to be really thoughtful and measured about it moving forward. And so we got together probably 10 or 12 times in the expanse of 6 months to go through and do a lot of research into these things. And so at the end of the day, came up with some really good data, and we did some focus groups that we invited parents to come to, alumni to come to, students, teachers, tried to hear from all of our constituents about this idea moving forward. And so then on February 21 of just this last school year, our boards, again separately, because we're separate still,
Yes.
voted unanimously to take this motion to our constituency. And so then April 18, we had a joint constituency meeting. So we have 9 churches actually that represent all of our schools together.
Yes.
And so we had all of those churches come together and gave them the presentation about all of the findings that we had come up with. And they voted with a 90% positive yes rate to make this official and to call the school Walla Valley Adventist Schools as a school system.
Yes.
And a lot of our feedback from our focus groups, we learned that there was, and I'm not surprised about this, very strong brand loyalty to the name Walla Valley Adventist Academy, or Walla Valley Academy, I should
Yes.
say, and Rogers Adventist School.
Yes.
And we heard over and over from alumni, from parents, from students, we have a vested interest in these names. But similar to many other school systems, there's a name for the system and then separate campus names. And so that's what we voted to do, was to have a K-12 school system called Walla Valley Adventist Schools that is represented by Rogers and Wava.
So at this point then, even though Milton State Line is another Adventist school in the Valley, at the present time it's not part. Yes?
Not yet.
Okay.
So that was actually the first conversation that Mr. Borges and I had, was to go meet with Milton State Line, with the principal, Jeannie Goodhue, and kind of give her ideas and see what she thought about this. You know, we work together as principals very closely. And it's a little bit different for Milton State Line when they're so geographically removed from us, with Rogers and Wava being right next door.
Yes.
Some of those collaboration pieces just happen a lot easier and a lot more naturally. And so Mrs. Goodhue said, I love this idea for you guys, for us right now, for our specific small school brand, because they bring something really important to the Valley that we have to work hard to try to create school relationships and school family. At a small school like Milton State Line, that comes just naturally.
Yes.
That's already part of their culture. And they said, for us right now, this doesn't feel like the best idea moving forward, but maybe in the future. Like, we kind of want to watch and see how this works for you guys. And certainly at any point, if they decided we'd like to sign on and be a part of that cohort, we'd love it.
And certainly the name that you've chosen leaves that as a possibility.
Absolutely. And that was part of the intentionality of that name.
Now, some of the things that, as you were doing, that you had your, your focus groups, your committee that studied, what were some of the biggest advantages that you saw?
Sure. I mean, across the board, it's almost all advantages, to be honest with you. So in talking with the conference, we learned that the financial piece would be beneficial to us to move from 2 separate to 1 K-12. So the subsidy package that comes with that is financially beneficial. Now, it's not enough that you would say, well, that's the only reason we should do this. If we were only doing this for the finances, that's not enough. But it is a benefit to us, and we hope that we can take some of that money and work that into part of our tuition package.
Yes.
So that it is not such a huge jump from an elementary education to an academy education, because that's what we heard over and over in the focus groups.
You did.
It's so expensive, moving up. And what I know now as an incoming Wava parent, because my son will be going to Wava next year, is that it really is very affordable. There's so many options and scholarships and things that kids can take advantage of. But when you initially see that sticker price, it can feel a little bit shocking. And so we want to make sure that it can be a little bit more of a gradual incline and not a stair step. So the financial piece is a piece of that. Already we're seeing with calendar and schedules how parents really appreciate us, like having parent-teacher conferences on the same day, having our beginning of the school day and the ending of the school day match. All of those little just logistical pieces that if I have a student at Rogers and one at Wava, I don't want to have completely different schedules that I'm trying to follow. Well, this day is a professional growth day at Wava, but not at Rogers, so I need to find care for this kid, but not for this kid. So some of those, just like I say, those customer service pieces that it feels like, to be honest, we should be doing those all along, but this has made us really intentional about like group calendar meetings when we're saying, okay, let's all do a service day this day. Let's all make sure that our Thanksgiving break matches up. Let's make sure that all of those other things match up.
That has been amazing. Even my kids were at Rogers, and now my daughter is going to Wava, but she works after school at Rogers with her after school job. And so that little thing right there that you're talking about has been so helpful for her, because the same days that she is off, also the students that she tutors after school are also off. So it works out so much more.
It's a lot better.
So nicely for her.
Teacher, being able to share teachers in whatever ways that make sense, as far as if you have a low number of students in this geometry class, then they could join in this other geometry class and try to work that out. Just the logistics of sharing transportation and sharing spaces, even this year already we've been doing we're using Wava's space for this at Rogers, and so now Wava students are going to come over and use this space here. So it just provides more of a extended, I guess, family feel. And so we see a lot of benefits just across the board.
Was it symbolic that you took down all the bushes between the two?
Well, I mean, looking at it now, like that totally made sense. I would love to get like a skywalk between the two schools so they can be connected. The bushes really came down to safety and security in that when people are driving back behind our schools, you can't see if a student is crossing.
Yes.
Because a lot of our students go back and forth now for music lessons or math classes or other things. And so some of the bushes was really just the logistics of safety. And then we need more parking. Both of our schools are growing and we're overflowing with parking into each other's spaces. And so trying to find ways that we can utilize our spaces more consistently and fluidly, I think is just better for everybody.
For sure. So some of the goals then, as you're moving forward for the schools as they're joined together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the big piece really is wanting to make both schools just as strong as they can be. And so, like I said, sharing some of those teachers, sharing our calendars, sharing our schedules, I think it provides a better customer service experience for parents. Because at the end of the day, when a fourth grader at Rogers considers fifth grade, they very rarely will say, well, I'm not sure that I'm going to come back for fifth grade. It's just an obvious that they will. But when an eighth grader leaves Rogers, many of them say, well, of course I'm going to go to Walla. But some say, well, maybe I'll go here, or maybe I'll go here, maybe I'll go here. We want to, and while it might not be the perfect fit for every student, but we want the default to be, well, of course I'll go to ninth grade. That's just, it's part of our system. It's part of the next step. And if we can get our kids to start to be a little more integrated with WAVA students, start to feel a little more comfortable, a little safer. We've been inviting them to our ASB Vespers and inviting them to other praise and worship things so they can start to connect with those WAVA students and realize, well, yes, they're high schoolers, but they're not that big and scary. This is a family that you can fit into. And so we really are looking for the longevity for both schools for us to be strong K-12.
Yes, all the way through. Very good. So is it worth it to go? People always think price, value. Is it worth it? Is it affordable? What's the special thing you're going to get by choosing to put your student either at Rogers or continuing on to WAVA?
Well, and I feel strongly about Christian Adventist education.
I'm
I've
sure
dedicated
you
my
should.
life to this, and I will tell you, across the board, the academic programs are solid. When you look at our testing scores compared to students from other public schools or other non-affiliated schools, our kids are at least half a grade level higher across the board every and this is SDA schools, right? So not just Rogers and WAVA, SDA schools in general. When you look at the spiritual atmosphere, the ability for kids to be, and we don't have perfect kids at Rogers and at WAVA. We have kids who are going to mess up, who are going to make mistakes. But when we know that our primary goal is to bring kids to Jesus, then they feel safe to pray with somebody and to talk about Jesus and to enjoy worship experiences and not feel the fear behind that. And it really does come down to those relationships, the relationships they have with our Christian teachers, the relationships they have with other Christian families. We know that friends are king. And I wish the kids would always listen to me as the adult or listen to me as the parent. They're listening to their friends. And so let's take that chance on making sure that those Christian relationships are developed and are flourishing, because life is hard for a teenager. It's tough.
Yes.
And we want to give them the best chance that they can to stay engaged in our churches, to stay engaged in their relationship with Jesus.
Yes, definitely so. So how can people find out a little bit more about the schools together in the new system?
Sure. Yeah, we have a press release and some information up on the WAVA website. So that's wava.org, which gives people a little bit of a snapshot of what we're doing and what's coming up. But we hope to be, publicizing more in the future. So as we get this all figured out.
Excellent. Very good. And is there still a chance to enroll students for next year? Are there openings?
In many grades.
Okay.
Some of my elementaries are capped.
Okay.
So call and find out before you start that application process. But many of the grades do still have availability.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Holley.
Thank you, Lynelle. Appreciate it.
All right, and stay tuned. I'll be right back with Station News. Time for Station News. We produced some new spots for Blue Mountain Television just this last Sunday. And the exciting thing about that actually is that we were working with the Pathfinders. So that's a group of young people who are involved in the Pathfinder Club, and we were particularly working with some students who are ages 10 through 14, and they were helping us with some new spots for the station that are going to remind us about how Jesus is only a prayer away and what a friend he is and how we can call on him, and just some encouraging words that these young people are sharing, and we're going to be able to broadcast those spots here on the station. So we're super happy to be able to partner with the Pathfinder group for this production. Also, I wanted to let you know that we are getting very, very close to having selected the organization that we are going to use to create the new app for Blue Mountain Broadcasting. So we've done lots and lots of research, and frankly, most organizations or companies that we could work with are just too expensive. But we've been able to find one, not going to give the name yet, but that we think is really going to work. And they've got some great specials on right now and some great specials for organizations like ours. And it looks like they're going to be able to offer all of the things that we need to happen in the app so that it will be a great service for you where you can go and find programs on demand and where you can use this app for whatever platforms you use. And I'm not going to name all of them now, but we're working with at least 5, maybe more platforms that will be available for getting Blue Mountain Broadcasting's programming in addition to our on-the-air broadcast and our website. So it's really, really exciting for us. We know this is a direction that we must go because that's how much of the population, especially the younger population, is accessing visual content is through apps on their phone or other mobile devices. So we're really, really excited about this. And this is just kind of a teaser right now that I'm sharing with you because I can't give you all the news yet until we make those final decisions, till our board votes on it at the upcoming board meeting and that sort of thing. But some very, very good news. And we're thanking God actually for helping us find a way to do this that is affordable for our organization. Also, I wanted to highlight for you a program today, and the one that we're highlighting on this episode is Loma Linda University Church. Loma Linda University Church is a favorite. People love to hear Randy Roberts preaching, and it's a program that's really, really enjoyed by our viewers here at Blue Mountain Broadcasting. And you probably already know this if you're a big fan of it already and you're tuning in every week to watch it, but Saturdays at 8 a.m. is the #1 viewing time for this broadcast, and that's when you can watch Loma Linda University Church. Saturdays at 8 a.m. Also, you can catch it on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on the station. And if you want to watch some of the older episodes of Loma Linda University Church, you can see those on Sundays at 7 a.m. So again, those times are Saturday, Sabbath at 8 a.m., Wednesday at 8 p.m., and Sunday at 7 a.m. Well, once again, I just want to thank you for your interest in Blue Mountain Broadcasting. It's a very local community sort of place with a lot of people involved volunteering and a lot of people involved with giving. And you might be one of those people who actually financially supports us. If you are, thank you so much. If you haven't done it yet, you certainly could. In fact, we're looking for a growing number of people who will be monthly sponsors and really bolster up our monthly operating budget here for Blue Mountain Broadcasting. So you might be thinking, yeah, I watch this station occasionally. I appreciate it. I think it's a good thing. Somebody I love depends on it. That could be the situation in your experience, that you have someone in your family, your friend group that really depends on Blue Mountain Broadcasting, but maybe you've never given before. Well, you could start by just making a $10 a month contribution, something like that. You can certainly be a part of supporting this organization month by month, and we really need that. We also need your prayers. We also need you to share word of mouth about the station and some of the favorite programs and invite other people to tune in and watch as well. So thank you for doing all of those things, and thanks for watching today. I will see you next time.